What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having mixed martial artist. Pretty much philanthropist, philosopher, the one and only Cupcakes, Johnny Campbell. Johnny, what's going on, my man?
I am just being myself and just trying to have as much fun as possible. And this is a huge opportunity to both have fun and kind of express myself. So I appreciate it so much having me on this, this awesome opportunity.
The pleasure's all mine. And shout out to one Everett Osmer in Alabama for putting this thing together because, yes. We were talking off air 3 seconds into him opening his mouth. I was like, this shit is going to be fun as fuck. So we're going to take you along for the ride. But Johnny, I guess first and foremost, right? Because you're about to head into training and you're an accomplished mixed martial artist. How did you get into the wild world of mixed martial arts?
MMA. I started in a way young at like Blockbuster or something, seeing UFC 1 and 2 and things in the DVD section and just being a little bit like curious about it and what was it? It was a professional wrestling, it was fighting. Boxing was always a thing. As like cliche as it may be, like Rocky movies and some of these things that I watched growing up, there was always like a desire to want to fight. And then my attitude in sports was so competitive that, when you hit a spot, it's like you go from competitive to like, okay, now we're just going to fight. F it. It's like, we're not even going to play the game anymore. Now it's a personal thing. We're going to fight. And that was like my life growing up a lot of times, where it would be like everything was personal, either me towards other people or other people towards me. And I think just being an adolescent, everyone's growing. So fighting was just a thing. And my senior year, after like messing with the idea for a long time, my friend and I went down to a gym and we signed up and we started training. At the time, I was like super depressed and things, and like definitely looking for an outlet. I was like suicidal for a little while and attempted suicide a little bit with some like sleeping pills and things, like more of a cry for help, because like deep down, I knew that I probably was going to live through whatever the hell I was putting myself through, but that's how fed up I was that I was like, I was in a bad place for a long time as far as like personally, and it was all self-inflicted, really. It was more like my attitude about life. But regardless, when I got into MMA, mixed martial arts, it just like it was like a pinball machine, and it was like I was the ball and I hit a bumper or something and I just shot into like a spot that gave me a gajillion points, and I got incredibly lucky in some ways. And I got started at a little place called Fight Zone that is still making fighters slowly and in these humble way that they do. And they gave me a nice base and a foundation. And then that led me to South Shore Sport Fighting ultimately, which is where I'm at right now doing all my work. And and everything happens for a reason, and I'm just I'm blessed to have found MMA.
No, that's incredible. I think there's a lot, because I too kind of discovered UFC by way of professional wrestling, right? If not for Dan Severn walking in, and think about what we knew. My son, his name is Owen. The first combat sports anything that I'd ever watched was Randy Savage versus Bret Hart on Saturday night's main event in '87, right? And cartoons and everything like that, like Tom and Jerry and Harvey cartoons and what have you, right?
Right.
Then once I saw that, the pageantry of professional wrestling, I was just like, I'm hooked, right? And then every time that Bret and Owen, but specifically Bret, right, because he was the champion, he would walk down the aisle, Gorilla Monsoon or Bobby Heenan or Vince McMahon would basically talk about how, all of, his dad is a crazy catch wrestler. All of his brothers
Yep.
are wrestlers. All of his sisters married wrestlers, and the wrestlers were all of my favorites. We're talking about Jim the Anvil Neidhart. We're talking about British Bulldog, right?
Yes.
And then when they talk about Stu himself, I was just like, wait, this is just a guy that's born like you and I, right? And he could stretch the hell out of professional basketball players, football players, and one time out of the year when they had the Calgary Stampede out in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that he could wrestle and choke out a bear. So again, a 6, 7, 8-year-old me, I want to choke out a bear. Like,
Fuck yeah.
What's
You want to choke out a bear now?
Pardon the pun, but eat it up. But I mean, still, it's just like a cool thing that you'd go to. And then again, the hearts are legit, And then Dan Severn, speaking of beasts, coming to WWF Shotgun Saturday Night, and I knew what Brett was the champion, but after WrestleMania 10, Owen was just like right there, right? So when Severn ragdolls Owen Hart, again, everything that I knew up to that point was just what? And Jim Ross saying he's a Ultimate Fighting Cage champion, UFC, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And I went down to Hollywood Video here in LA, and my dad, and saw the tape for him, and
UFC.
Yeah, and I was basically going, Dad, like, can we get this? Can we get this? And he was just like, no, it's too violent. So I went to the action section, got a Charles Bronson Death Wish like 4 with a big old gun or whatever. And I was like, you want to see that? And I said, hey, Dad, one of these two. And he said, go get your UFC tape. So, and I was just, oh my God, yeah.
Nice. Well played. That was well played. That was like a lawyer or something, But
yeah, but I mean, I love how you talked about, especially your battle with depression before MMA, because right now, I mean, I think it's really apropos in terms of what we're going through and what we have been through since March, right? Worldwide. It's not just us here in the U.S. It's not just our state. It's not just our municipality. It's all over the world. And then it's having ramifications economically, psychologically, health-wise. I've had friends that have caught COVID and been absolutely fine in both sides of the spectrum, physically fit and then not so physically fit. And then I have friends and family of friends that have unfortunately died. I mean, again, they've been healthy as hell and not healthy as hell. So we just don't know. But, I love the fact that you found this. And I think it's a great parable for what's going on, and a canary in the coal mine, so to speak, for a lot of people that might be watching this. And I mean, I've gone through it. I mean, one of the reasons why I kind of wrapped up the podcast is because I'm fucking going insane after 3-4 months. I was just like, oh, I want to see what's going on. If I can't go outside, then I'm gonna bring everything to people, and see how people are doing. That's it.
Yeah, I think it helps. Human contact is so necessary that if it's through a screen, even it's still something. I feel like yeah, it's hugely important for everyone, us included, and anyone that watches. Yeah, I mean, it's good to be able to do my part in some way to kind of give back, because I know it's a wacky time right now. I'm blessed again to be doing what I'm doing. So the people that I'm with are taking whatever steps that they have to so that we can train together safely. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but it's wacky out there right now. So yeah, I think everyone just needs to stay focused on whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, whether it's just self-improvement or health or monetary gains or whatever it is. Focus that mind. Social media and things, as wonderful as they are, the tools that they can become distracting, and they can make you feel a certain way about what you already have, and you got to be grateful for what you have before you can get anything more. So yeah, stay focused.
Well, I love it. Gilbert Neves, who is one of him and the family. It's his family, his brother and his dad are some of the preeminent, not just cut men, but like they put like Combate Americas together. So shout out to the Neveses. And Jesse Velasquez says that's awesome. You know, martial arts is not only good for you physically, but mentally too. And Jesse Velasquez is an IFS champion in MMA here in Southern California. So, I mean,
So
yeah, it's something that kind of once you get in it, right? It transforms who you are because I mean, you know, just to say it's fighter, we were kind of talking off air, right? In sense that fighters get lumped into just like brutes and pugilists and what have you. But here's the thing, martial arts, right? That's the arts in the MMA kind of tagline, right? So just like Picasso and Van Gogh and Rembrandt, what did they do? They painted their masterpieces, they sculpted their masterpieces on the canvas. Da Vinci, right? Well, guess what?
wow. Whoa, that was just blew my mind.
Absolutely. Whether you box, whether you do jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, whatever, MMA, the canvas is always there. And whether it be a practice session or you have got the big lights of an amateur regional or pro show, and even obviously the UFC, Bellator, Top Ranks, and all of that, you're seeing elite athletes at that point basically painting their masterpiece in real time in front of you.
For sure. 100%. Like Israel Adesanya, somebody like that, it's like a little more obvious sometimes when somebody like that's doing it. So, yeah, it seriously is. It's like a beautiful little snapshot of the universe in like a intense kind of light and dark and duality kind of thing, and which just because everybody has a certain perspective on life, it doesn't seem so powerful and intense. But martial arts it's the entirety of the universe, just like everything else. Everything is one thing. Everything is God manifest, and it's just and fighting is something that is so near and dear to everyone's hearts. It's like it doesn't matter the fan level. There are certain fights that are massive that everyone wants to see. It doesn't matter if they're a fight fan or not. Mike Tyson's fight coming up potentially. It's like everybody is amped for that. McGregor, Mayweather, guys like that. It's a special thing, fighting or martial arts, whatever you want to call it, and I'm proud to do it. I really believe that I could be one of the people that every single person on earth wants to see fight. I just have to stay focused. Have to stay focused.
No, 100%. And for those who say like, oh well, you don't have to fight, or don't do this, and especially when you get into like the bare knuckle, where it can visually look gruesome, but in terms of, I mean, had Jeff Houston, the voice of BKFC, on last week, and yes, it might look brutal, but the amount of concussions by comparison to other professional sports are way down because, so it's just, to me, I feel like, fighting is in everybody. It's almost innate in you as a person, in the wilds, it's Darwinism at its best, kill and be killed, only the strong survive. But I mean, if you've been unfortunately diagnosed with an ailment, right, you fight. If you're, trying to go to school and do work and have some sort of semblance of, family life, you fight, right? Everything we fight in, right? We fight for, right? And sometimes it's against each other, as in social media and what have you, but you could not do that and kind of fight with each other as a community, as a small part of a larger community. And I mean, that's one thing, like the best people that I moved around a lot as a kid. And I mean, that's kind of why I got ingrained in combat sports and the visual presentation of it, just due to the fact that, not having really too much control of where I lived and 11 different schools before I even hit middle school, I'd be like, well, I knew I could watch wrestling. I knew I could watch boxing,
Yeah.
and later the UFC and see, the continuations of either storylines, feuds, and what have you. And it was just something that, again, we have innately in us, but to see it inform and to see people, we were talking about Rocky, right? Rocky is the ultimate underdog story, right? And I mean, such the masterful mind of Sylvester Stallone that even in what, six incarnations after how many decades, he's
Keeps
still
coming.
he's still the underdog.
Right. I know. Right. Yep. I know every time, but it's a beautiful thing though. It's beautiful. Everybody loves that underdog type story. So, and I feel somewhat like one of those things myself, being 20-12, having lost 12 fights. I mean, I've said it recently. Like if most fighters had to do the path or go through the path that I did, they would have just hung them up so long ago. And I just will never stop. And I think that's humanity as a whole. We're refusing to stop. I mean, Joe Rogan, we talked about, he freaking has some hilarious bits about that, about eating the sandwich or what have you. And I just feel like that's what humanity is. Don't ever stop, keep moving forward, and we will persevere. And yeah, and martial arts is that too. It's like you don't always feel good every single day. You don't always get every single technique right. Not every technique is good for every single person. So it's like it's a struggle sometimes. But it's like if you let it get to you and you quit, then then it's just going to filter to other things in your life. And if you do the opposite and you keep moving forward, then you're going to do that in everything in your life. And I mean, relationships, money. It doesn't matter. Martial arts is something that shows you that you can do damn near anything. If it's inside of this physics engine that we're working with right now in this game, then for sure it can be done. So yeah, martial arts.
Yeah, man. No, 100%, 100%. And Jesse, basically saying, yep, it's a physical art form for sure. Shout out to Jesse. And Antoine Hood says, my guy Adam, thanks for your help over the weekend. Dude, my pleasure. And go ahead and check out High Desert Pythons on YouTube. It's a cool, if you like reptiles and such. It's a really cool game. And I mean, Antoine is the head coach of Fearless Victory MMA out there in Ridgecrest, California. So, and matchmaker for 559 fights here in California. So, shout out to Antoine. But I mean, with the help that he was, basically kind of needing advice for was just like this. How do we do this? Optimize podcasts. And I mean, you're a YouTube, content creator and amongst other things. And it's just like, if this is in you to do, I think everyone should do it. And yes, you're going to be told there's literally a million podcasts out there. That's fine because there's only one you, right?
Exactly.
And the way you take it's just like, doing interviews with you guys as fighters. I'm going to have a different interview because I have a different take than everyone else, and they're going to have something from me. I've got no problem sharing other people's work and everything because guess what? If we're all trying to make some semblance of a living doing this, the more people and the more eyes on what we're doing, the better, right? So I'm not able to reach everyone, right? So if this guy or this gal over here with their podcast or their content is going to get them, great. And guess what? I'm a fan of the sport too. So if I can help kind of ease the path, why not? Because people have done that for me.
That's, what you give, you get back X amount, 10 times, 100 times, whatever it is. Probably the bigger impact that you give or create, then the more that comes back to you. But yeah, that is the universe in general. So it's like, yeah, I think that everybody should be looking at it as helping one another in a way and less about competition. And then, we'll just have some freaking excellent content. And that's what's going to last, is that no one person is going to live forever. Not yet, at least. We'll see what Bill Gates or Elon Musk is working on. But for right now, no one's living forever. So just put it all down on tape and in paper, and hopefully some stuff takes, and then then you live on forever in a way. And that's the way that people should be thinking. Too many people are thinking about silly shit and not focused on like making a lasting impact. And I mean, me too. Sometimes I get focused in the wrong areas, but doing stuff like this kind of reminds you, like, yo, you are not just some person moving through the world. It's like you could be doing something to impact it or change it or make it better. So, and I think that this is an amazing platform to do that. People love this stuff.
Yeah, and then the thing about it is, again, if a fighter watching this can learn from your story and maybe kind of ease the path in your way, or at the very least appreciate the folks. I mean, you're a tenured young veteran of the sport, right? But there's still so much that you've seen through your eyes, that you've punched through your fist, and your ascension of your knowledge of the sport, right? That so many could pick up on and really appreciate. Like, oh well, I fought on this shit show, blah blah blah, whatever, this promoter, whatever. And then Johnny comes in and goes like, oh, you think that's shitty? Let me tell you, about 6 years ago.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of those stories, that's for sure. There's plenty of there's a lot of good and bad in MMA. So I think that everyone needs to just look at fights and promoters and everything as just huge opportunities. Take everything that you can, gather all that experience. I mean, as a pro, depending on what your plans are, everybody should take fights depending on how their comfort level. I jumped the F in right away, and that's why my record is as like gritty as it is. But like I've said a million times, everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't ask for anything different. I wouldn't change one singular round or one single strike that landed or didn't. And that's the way everyone should look at it. But ideally, you just win every fight like Khabib, and then life is good. But ultimately, never give up. That's what it's all really about. You got to just continue forward, always tough fights with crappy promoters, shitty venues. Stay and whatever it is. If your gym is crappy or your training partners aren't up to par, whatever. I feel like there's like a need to have the best training partners or whatever it is. And I think it's more about the person themselves and the way that they're conducting themselves and the way that they're focusing, and less about the people around you. Everybody likes to blame people around them, and you're not going to get anywhere doing that. So I've taken full responsibility most of the time throughout my career, and that's why I'm on a 4-fight win streak, all finishes against winning opponents. My last like 10 fights, all winning opponents. I'm like 9-3 in my last 12. All 9 wins are by finish. All 3 losses are by decision, and 2 of them are like, did I lose that fight? I don't think so, but whatever. That's another thing. It's like, they read that other guy's name at the end and you lost the decision. It needs to be like fire under your ass and not a deterrent. There is no bad things that are happening. It's tough to say that to somebody who has like some serious shit going on. If you have like if you're sick or something, and then I'm like, oh yeah, everything happens for you. It's easy for you to be like, fuck you, Cupcakes. You're a dick. And it's like, I know, I get it, but like I'm telling you, you can use whatever it is that's happening to you or happening for you, really, and use it as fuel. And everyone can do it. I promise you that. And I mean, that's probably like my biggest message as far as like wanting to help fighters and whatnot, and maybe just help other people in general.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And again, all of those things, kind of, they left an indelible mark, whether it be, physically or, emotionally and spiritually on you, that have brought you to the dance, which I got to ask, that first fight, right? I mean, it's one thing watching it in DVD and, obviously training at your gym, but like your first fight, I mean, what was going through your mind? What were you like? Because you been under the influence of giants, right? The MMA gods, now all Hall of Famers and what have you, right? And then now you're doing the thing. the thing that you watched, right? What was
Right.
like preparing for it, like the changing of the mindset, like you're going from human to like warrior, the that Bushido. So talk to us about that first fight.
Man, first fight was a beautiful thing because it was short notice. I took it on like a week's notice. So, yeah, I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, which is, I think, important. Sometimes you take a fight 6, 8, 10 weeks out and then you train, and every day you're like, God, I'm going to fight. And that's the date and that's the guy. And it can get in your head. So, I mean, I jumped right in, had a fight, traveled up, hours and hours away, and the whole thing does, it's like I was never really nervous. Fighting is like a weird thing, and competition in general is a weird thing. I think I got because I competed in hockey and things for a long time. There was always a sense of like I just do. I don't think a lot, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some people might be like, "Oh, that's sad," but no, I think in a way it's like no mind. Some maybe Eastern philosophers would call it like you by thinking you get in your own way a lot of times or every time pretty much. So by going no mind or mindless or whatever it is, you just let your body do. And even though I was very in a way inexperienced, I just went out there and just did what I did, which was like heave my fists at people. And I like danced around the ring for about 40 seconds and threw my fists at the guy's face. I clipped him on the jaw in 54 seconds. He dropped to the ground out cold. I won my first fight 56 seconds. It was like, I mean, I don't even remember most of that 56 seconds. I do remember jumping around a lot after. And I do remember the way that he like fell. That was fun. But yeah, I mean, and then from there, it was just like, get me in that cage as many times as I possibly can, because it was like I went on a sweet roller coaster, and I needed to get in line and do it again. And because of that, I took some tough fights and maybe didn't win all my fights, but I guess it's like all learning experiences. And that first one was about as glorious as you get for a first one, I think.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those things, especially like you can't quit. You're almost the fix is in. Like you got to have more of it, and especially the fact that I mean, you finish. I mean, literally, fighters, whether it be amateur or pro, will go, eons of fights, or even years, before they get their first finish, and or that flash knockout or submission, and you got it on your very first fight, very first night, and on a week's notice. So I mean,
Dopamine.
I feel like, obviously we're seeing with Khamzat Chimaev, right, in the UFC. That guy did what, 2 fights within 10 days notice, and then in 2 different weight classes, he makes his US debut and literally knocks out G3 Jared Mishart literally on the first touch, right?
That was
Everybody's
wacky.
clamoring.
Just boom.
Yeah. And everybody's clamoring for him to when are we going to see him next, right? So I'm sure the people that were in attendance live, they were like, when are we going to see Cupcakes next? Like, let's do this, right? And then
Yep.
of course, as an entertainer, as an athlete, you're going to appease your audience. Like, yeah, of course. And then yeah, sometimes it doesn't come as easy as the first one. You're kind of chasing the dragon in some instances, but I mean, I think in life, much like in fights, where you learn more from a like on paper loss than you do if you won, because I mean, you don't really have to think about the things that you did wrong. Only the ardent of coaches will be like, oh well, you should have pivoted your hips this way, blah blah blah, and usually that fighter would leave that coach. You're like, well, fuck, I won. Like, what the hell? Like, but I mean, if you really want to go introspectively, I mean, the things that you don't wrong, like. I mean, I think 160 podcasts, the ones that kind of filter in my brain, and that's just in the last 4 months, are the ones that the audios were off, and like I didn't really answer the questions too well, or I didn't engage my guests as well, and it's always the ones that aren't right that kind of stick out to me more so than the right ones.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a tendency as humans to just focus more on the negatives for sure. And I know because I don't know if you are familiar with or mess around at all with the law of attraction,
Yeah.
but I stumbled onto that in maybe like 2008 or so, and very quickly I realized how focused I was on negative and negativity and things that were broken and things, instead of uh, positive stuff. And it's been a long road and I'm still working on it, to be totally honest. So, everybody focuses a lot of times on the negative. It's a very interesting thing about human beings.
No, 100%. And Jesse brings up to the to the effect of your first fight. He says that's why we train so much. Your body just does it without thinking. Muscle memory. Hesitation is death in the cage, and I've seen
True.
that. And using your setups are essential. But if you overthink, you're not going to get anywhere.
True.
Which actually that was. I'll leave the name out of this, but I remember watching a fight live, right? And the person got hit, right? Person got hit, and right there, he ended up turning to his coach and go, "What the fuck do I do now?" Like that, it was like audible. Like I was cage side, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" Right? But I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of those where like the muscle memory that kind of takes you out of it. It doesn't matter how much you learn or whatever. When that moment happens, what Mike Tyson says, everybody thinks they have a plan until they get punched in the face, and
True.
that's absolutely true.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's interesting. That happens sometimes in sparring or something like, teaching, especially teaching people, it's like they're trying to listen or something of that nature. And it's like, and they're looking over at the coach or whatever it is. It's like eyes on the person, keep fighting. But it's like, yeah, man, I especially, there are certain people, I don't think that I won't say that I love to get punched in the face. I think that that's silly for anybody to say, but I playing hockey growing up a lot. I mean, I was smaller, but I hit the shit out of people. I mean, I would just crouch down low into a low squat and then just explode upwards into people's center of gravities and just upend people. And sometimes I would use my head, and I just got used to getting hit in the friggin' head, it seems like. And it's like not a huge deal, but there are other people who, when they get hit, they do not like to get hit. And I've fought some of those people, and I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you can feel somebody not liking getting hit. And again, nobody likes it, but some people really don't like it, and they will quit if they get hit in the head too much, and they will give up, and they will say, "I don't want to be hit in the head anymore." And it's just an interesting thing, the way that people are either brought up or their upbringing or genes, or I don't know what it is that makes some people really dislike being hit. But yeah, it's interesting.
No, 100%. I think just two that come to mind, and most people would think, oh, you don't like getting hit as a fighter, you're weak, you're whatever. But actually, three, right? And so, in no particular order, right? You've got Floyd Mayweather in the latter part of his career, right? Brock Lesnar, who
Oh my god!
right, he
I
hated.
just talked about that like yesterday with someone. He
Yes,
he
yes,
hated it.
yes.
Weird.
And none other than the aforementioned Mike Tyson, who, Teddy Atlas was on Joe Rogan, and he said, I don't think he was a great fighter. And this is somebody who, trained under Cuss, right? And Customato, the great Customato. And Teddy Atlas was like, Tyson was only in his career 3 legitimate fights, and he lost them all, right? So that's it. Even Tyson didn't like getting hit. So when you think about that, it doesn't necessarily equate or amass to the fact that that person is weak. It's just like, but
I don't
there's
think so.
something completely different, because
Yeah.
even still, what those men have, accomplished in their career, nobody can take that away. But again,
Sure.
an aspect of it is like defending, kicks and punches and, to the face, and they don't react well.
Yep. You got like Chuck Liddell, who doesn't seem to really dislike getting hit. He just can't. If you hit him, he goes to sleep immediately. Like against the Tito fight, his last one, the punch hadn't even hit him yet, and I think his body was like shutting off already. It was crazy, but he's in there like not minding it. I don't think it's not like he's worried. It's just like he can't take it. Where then like somebody like Brock Lesnar. I mean, I heard. I don't know. I don't want Brock Lesnar kicking my ass or anything, but I heard that when he was training for fights, that he wouldn't even let people punch him in the face, and that there were rules that he could only be hit by like the shoulders down and stuff. It's like, dude, I don't love getting hit, and it's not fun having a headache, but Jesus. You can't be 295 pounds and worried about getting hit. Yeah, whatever. It's funny.
Yeah, I know, and I've absolutely heard the same from people that were in that gym in Minnesota. But then, it's obviously different reasonings why people like Brock has never really loved anything that he's done, right? With his NCAA career, and high school career in Webster, South Dakota, I mean, it's something that he just did. He did naturally, but he didn't love it, right? Then he gets scattered by the WWE, and even in the developmental territory where they had, in Ohio Valley, in Louisville, Kentucky, you had the likes of Randy Orton. I mean, this is just the class, right? You've got Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, John Cena, Dave Bautista, and a litany of others, right? Just in one class, right? And wow. Brock is making more money than all of them as a developmental person, right? And again, he didn't like it. He didn't like the training. He didn't like whatever. I mean, his signing with the WWE was almost. You kind of saw it later with Ronda, where obviously Brock didn't love it, but Shelton Benjamin, his Minnesota Golden Gophers teammate, right, and roommate, loved it, and he saw that there was going to be money there. So Brock signed because of Shelton Benjamin, much like Ronda. Ronda signed because of Shayna Baszler, Marina Shafir, and Jasmine Duke.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's funny. It all depends on why. Why, and that's what I love about doing this is figuring out each person's why. Because yes, the concept here is mixed martial arts. Theoretically, it's the same, and even going to fights, amateur. Like I think of it as no different than the Harlem Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution or any kind of peak of collective efforts and innovation, right? Because you've got the promoter, they have their concept of what this thing is supposed to look like. You've got the fan, just bleed, right? Like,
right? Yeah, twist his dick.
Twist his. It's a renaissance of all of these people kind of coming together, and they have their own concept of what this kind of thing of MMA is and how they can go about it, and we all kind of come together on that night and just kind of figure it out with all of our collective experiences, not just in this particular sport, but also what we've done, how we were raised, what we went through at work, what spousal thing did we get into with our wife right before we, or significant other right before. Like it all comes into play.
Seriously. I know, and it's like a game, I think, really, I mean, Elon Musk has said it recently that it's like more likely that we're in a simulation than we're in base reality. It's like a bazillion to one or something like that. And I mean, it feels very much that way sometimes to me. I mean, especially if you take the right drugs, then I mean, then that definitely happens where you start to really like slow time down to a way where it's like, man, is this fucking place real? Bill Hicks said it, he said that this is just a ride, and that people who've been around and on this ride for a long time, they always say, hey, this is just a ride, but man, you get caught up in it and it doesn't feel like just a ride. It feels so real, and it feels like super important. And I mean, although life obviously is important, I don't think we should just throw it away. I think that we just like need to care a little less sometimes and have a little bit more fun with what's happening in our lives. And yeah, I
No,
don't know. I think it's a game, man.
oh, 100%. My wife and I we were watching this movie, it's an Amazon movie where essentially
Talk to me.
the two characters they die. Like and then they just continue to die. Like it's Groundhog's Day, but with like death, right? It's
Oh
and
man.
they go the whole movie trying to figure it out, but then you know, at and there comes a point where after day five of the exact same thing and whatever, and knowing kind of the inevitable, you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna crash this wedding, I'm gonna get drunk, like
Yep.
whatever the hell, because if the
Embrace.
team anyway. Fuck it. Why not sprinkle a little fairy dust in there?
True. And I mean, technically, quantum physics, string theory, it's telling us that every single possible outcome has indeed already happened. And we are just moving along all these timelines. And then the law of attraction says that we can literally attract our way to whatever it is that we want because it's out there. It's in the math. It's out there. So in a way, fate really did happen or is real because it's all out there. So why not just enjoy it? Because it's already in a way planned out. It's just now like you get to make the decisions. It's like one of those choose your own way stories. So now make the decisions, hopefully, that veer you in the way that you are the best possible you that can be. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that every day, and it's not always easy. But I think that when that's your intention, I think that it does make life a little bit easier. Religion does that for people. Other things do. I mean, if you're fucking incredibly wealthy and you have this like huge corporation that you're like keeping going, maybe that keeps you in a way like focused. But I think that like just self-improvement, stay on your grind, get yours, be the best you can be, give back. That's what I'm trying to do every day.
No, and I love it, which I think it's a great point to kind of pose this because I mean, not just as a fighter yourself, but I mean, you're a coach, right? So, what have been some of your favorite kind of moments or memories or experiences, both as fighter and as coach? As a kind of a custodian and guardian of people's dreams, and fortifying it.
I mean, it's like almost as awesome as fighting yourself. It really is. I mean, like little stories. I trained this Guatemalan gentleman who speaks almost no English whatsoever, and my Spanish is like I speak like 2% of whatever Spanish is. I'm like I know very little, and I do my best. And for his first tournament, we're like getting ready the best that I can to someone that I literally can't communicate to verbally, and he like gets out on the mat for his first match, and like just about as he's about to go out, he like stops, turns to me, and just like bows to me, and it was like I don't know, man. It was just the coolest. Like it felt so fucking good to know that like that this guy or person like entrusted me to go into like battle sort of and like not but he respected me and he was like doing it sort of for me like because he knew that it would make me proud if he did well and it's just like a amazing thing. And then I trained this girl Christina Katsikis who's a animal and she's won like 200 grappling matches or something. And she started with me cardio kickboxing. That's what we did. And she's just a beast. She was like a collegiate field hockey player and just like this animal. And I was like, you absolutely need to do jujitsu. And she started doing it. And her first fight, I believe I fought that night. So I was like up in the rafters watching, and she had a really close, razor close decision fight that she gutted out and won. And it was fucking emotional. It was like so good to see her. And I just know how good it feels to do what these people are getting to do. And like to share it with them is just like a magical thing. So yeah, KK, she's a beast. I'm glad she won that fight that night. So it was good. There's others too, but like those two stick up pretty good.
I love it. I love it. It's funny that you're talking about the law of attraction because I actually did my first ever vision board party. Don Gonzalez, who pretty
Fun.
much is the dead mother for all of 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Okay.
She's, Eddie's kind of right hand, person and what have you. But she was saying how, her coaching jiu-jitsu, right? She was coaching this one gentleman, right? And they were just practicing, right? And he couldn't get the move. He couldn't get the move, couldn't get the move, couldn't get the move, right? And then for some reason, like he went to go spar with like by her estimation, this guy was like 80 pounds more so than the guy that she'd been training, right? And
that doesn't go good sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it did this time. And he hit the move on somebody that was 80 pounds heavier than him, and then ended up subbing him, just what have you. Now, she did say like the rest of the class was kind of rough for him, but at that moment, because he at the end of the match locked eyes with her, and she said literally, if you could see the fire behind his eyes, and to know that he was capable of it, and she held kind of the key to unlock that visceral emotion. It was just like, that's it. And now Donna's doing kind of I think it's called the Phoenix method, and you could look it up on the internet. But she's doing personal coaching, saying like, hey, if I can do this for just jiu-jitsu, that could be applicable to anything, right? So
absolutely,
we want to see people get to their optimal being.
Exactly. And competition is such a good way of doing that. You get in there with this challenge that's in front of you, and whether you win or lose or whatever happens, you get an immediate picture of what it is that you need to work on as a fighter, and a lot of times as a person too. Competition is one of the best things, whatever it is, MMA or jiu-jitsu. That's why I feel like some of the best people that I know are fighters or jiu-jitsu people or whatever it is, because either humbling or whatever it is, or empathy for others, maybe, I don't know exactly, but that there's this thing that competition and getting better at something like that, it's a beauty. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And again, I always like to say, it's almost a truth serum, right? The mats, like you can't bullshit on the mats. You can say, I trained under this person, this whatever. I've trained this many years prior to coming on, and then you got to show what you've learned. You got to show your worth, and sometimes it's not there. You can buy a black belt on the internet, but if you can't apply it, it's bum skis, And one of my favorite kind of iterations of that is just you think about it, right? This is this kind of like carnal, but also together type sport kind of endeavor, right? But if you know that this person will kind of leg kick you, but aim for your knees, right? Or drive their elbow in when they're grappling, right in your nose, right at the bridge of your nose. Like, maybe I'm not gonna train with this person, but like this person, obviously there's no one watching, right? So if they can kind of take it that underhanded tactic when nobody's watching, I'm probably not gonna grab a beer with them. We're not going to the movies. Like that's
I know what you mean. It's weird though. Sometimes those people are fucking. It's weird. Training is a weird thing. I know people who do that who are like, man, I would just say that they're kind of a dick, to be honest. I probably wouldn't say it to their face because I love them, and then they're like super nice people. I get so confused by it sometimes. People are just weird folks. And the mats is a really good place to just, unleash a little bit of that like evilness, I think, that people maybe keep pent up. I don't know. But yeah. training is funny. Training is funny. It's a like a blessing, and it's a challenge that every day it's a mental thing. You go in there. If you don't train hard enough, then you get beat up. If you train too hard, then you're a dick. It's like yeah, it's a challenge. It's like it's always something that you got to try to get better at, because I tend to like go on the easier side of training, and I got a lot of people that take full advantage of that. And having 35 fights or whatever, I think sometimes people look at me like, oh man, if I can beat him up, then that must mean something. And it's like not that I don't try in training, but man, I've fought 35 fights. I'm not in the gym to try to win. I'm in the gym to get better, so that when I go for my 36th fight, I'm better than I was in my 35th. And some people don't look at it that way. Some people are in there to win that round right there and then. And you got to just like no ego, no ego, even though it's tough. Sometimes you're like, fuck, I want to whatever. I want to try my hardest, or, jump on a submission or something. But, yeah, just keep trying to get better all the time. And if people are hurting you and shit, then yeah, avoid them. And you're probably right. Don't even bother. Don't drink beer in general if you're fighting.
Yeah, and just brings up good things. You learn so much about yourself through competition. Win, lose, or draw, it's an amazing feeling. And no faking it in there. It's as real as it gets, and that might seem like the kind of the piece de resistance of the old Zuffa era of the UFC, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's as real as it gets. I mean, and it is. We don't really have bare knuckle boxing is like the only sport I think that has like tried to push that envelope. There's some like MMA glove Muay Thai happening. I don't know the name of that, but that's some dangerous stuff. That scares me. I don't like the sound of that at all. but people are doing it, and it does look fun, and people are badasses. So it's just that's the thing, fighting or whatever. It's kind of harkens back to why does everyone have like an affinity for fighting? Why is it that older people maybe want to watch Conor McGregor because they hear that he's the best fighter or whatever? It's just I don't know, what is it that we just have to fight as people to keep evolution moving along, or the fact that we just like we're around campfires evolving, and we always used to wrestle each other, so now it's just part of our being. I don't know, it's a real interesting thing. Why you got any ideas why fighting would be such like an intricate part of being a human being?
No, I agree.
I mean, I wonder, I don't really know why exactly. It just is.
It is. I agree. And some people, Jesse kind of brings up in the instance of Brock Lesnar that he was a freak athlete and had the look and used it to his advantage, right? So that you've got those, right? You've got those, and then you've got people that try and they'll fail a lot of time, but they kind of keep with it. You're talking about that like chemical imbalance, that screw loose, that they're like, even though they kind of suck at it, they'll just continue to try, right? And they get better that way. That you've got people with particular advantages, whether it be they're longer, or they're have a high metabolism, like all of those being factors, like all of those again, we kind of get in this kind of on the mats, and in our life in fight, and all of those things come into play, and not just one person is like that. Like there's 5 people like that, or if you're at a competition, there's like a NOC or IBJJF, there's like literally 5 people that kind of fit one of those, or a hybrid of 2 of the 3, and what have you. And we all kind of come together in this one endeavor, and we kind of figure it out through each other. And it's just like, it's so beautiful. And to me, like Jesse says, fighting is in every culture. It's in human culture. Anybody is capable of it as well. No, 100%. 100%.
Yep. I got people who come to me and they want to work out and get in shape, and before you know it, they're doing a grappling tournament or something. And I got folks who are maybe older, 40, 50, whatever it is that you think is older, and they're like, "Oh, you think that I would do a grappling tournament?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. They got a master's division. Why wouldn't you?" It's just like it really is for everybody in a lot of ways, and I think it just makes everybody, who does it a better person. So it's beautiful that it did, that it is a thing that we all love and do. So yeah, just super grateful for it. That I got into something that is somehow universally accepted um, as like important in a way, even though it's not rocket science or we're not curing brain tumors or anything like that. We're not doing anything like that. We're not fighting fires. We're not doing shit. But there is something that brings everyone together to watch that fight. That even if you're against opposing people, and I hate your guy and you hate my guy, it's like when they're fighting and after they fight, it's a community, like you said. It's awesome. It's awesome.
No, 100%. Which, I mean, you spoke about things being awesome, right? We kind of touched on it off air. Like, this is probably, in terms of audio, one of the best ones that I've done, and it's particularly because of you. You've got an awesome setup. What is that for? What do you use that for?
Well, I mean, so sometimes I make YouTube videos. I recently I maybe watch a fight and then kind of stick myself in the bottom corner, giving some kind of playback. I did it with a few of my fights, and then I watched a UFC fight recently and kind of gave an input on it. And I also stream video games every so often. So depending on what I'm playing at the time, I might be streaming out League of Legends or World of Warcraft or something. So I either do that on YouTube or Twitch or something on that idea. But yeah, it's just like, man, I love computers. I love them. As soon as I got in them as a kid, kind of like fighting almost, it was like I just was hooked on it. I loved the idea of all the parts, putting it together, the games that they played. And so like once you kind of get started on building maybe like PCs from scratch and stuff, you start realizing what you can do with that technology. And then yeah, and you see some of the money that some of these people are making on YouTube and Instagram and things, and you're like, man, I could get a piece of that pie maybe. So, it's not necessarily just for the money, but again, it's like giving back or doing or expressing myself or whatever it is. It's this thing that every human being needs to do, and we live in a culture that kind of stifles it in a way, even though there's so many opportunities or venues that you can take or get in or whatever. There's a lot of people out there who think, nah, that's not me. I don't want to do that, or I want to do that, but I can't do that. I'm not in the position. I work too much. My dad told me I was stupid, my this, my that. It's like Gary V, just to go off topic in a way, like that dude, what he preaches, every single person needs to listen to it, because he says like fuck the haters in a way that is not ignorant. He says it in a way that is like fuck the negativity and focus on the positivity. Don't worry about what people are saying. Focus on what you're doing. And yeah, it's very important.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, in terms of like the critical mass, right? There have been a litany of people that have helped you along the way in your journey in life, your journey in fight, your journey in tech. So take as much time as you need to shout those people out, my man.
I'd have to say thank you to Mike Polvere from Cage Titans. The Cage Titans CEO. I mean, not just a friend, mentor, and boss. I mean, the guy is like so much to me. So Mike Polvere and the Cage Titans family is really like a foundation that I am built on. Without them, I would pretty much just crumble down and on top of myself. So it's like incredible that I have that support group and that community under me. And then South Shore Sport Fighting, which Bill Mahoney is the black belt and head trainer of, and that's in Rockland, Massachusetts. And if you have any self-defense, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or MMA concerns or questions, he is the fellow to ask in that region of the country for sure. And yeah, there are so many sponsors that it would be tough to mention. I mean, people that have helped me along my way and been on my t-shirt. Some folks are on the one t-shirt. Some folks are on every one of the t-shirts. It's like, but they all kind of have helped, forward my career in a way. So it's huge to be able to have that. And then just the friends, really who they are, my fans, I guess, if you want to be like if I want to be that guy, but they're like really friends. So many of the people who become my fans are like my friends and or my clients who become my friends who then are my fans. And I do have fans out there and I appreciate all of them, but like in a way it's like the way people reach out to me, it feels like I have just nothing but friends out there. So all my friends and fans that are, rooting for me and like their want for me to succeed is really what's going to end up pushing me over the top. I mean, the law of attraction, it's all on me, but I can literally feel the push from other people that are like, I need to see this guy, accomplish what I know he wants to accomplish or should accomplish. And it's really so much about the people that are behind me, my family and my friends and my fans. So huge thanks to all of them. And then Adam, thank you so much for doing this. I just love this. This is so much fun doing these things, and it was wonderful having a conversation with you. It was excellent, and if we could do it again, that would be fantastic.
No, absolutely. We can absolutely do it again. But I mean, for those who haven't become fans of one Johnny Cupcakes Campbell, I mean, you've got your YouTube, you've got social media. So shout them all out. Where can people find you best, my man?
Johnny CC MMA or Johnny Cupcakes Campbell, one of the two, but Johnny CC MMA for Instagram, Twitter, and then YouTube. And then on Facebook, it's like, I think it's Johnny Cupcakes the Carnivore right now, or Cupcakes Carnivore. But Johnny Cupcakes Campbell. You subscribe, especially the Instagram. I feel like that is a huge thing right now. And I know I'm like about 1,045 or something. Or so if I, more and more followers, just that Dana White scrolls over, looks at the Instagram, and he sees 10,000 followers. It's like, all right, that's 20,000 eyeballs that this guy's going to have on the UFC. I mean, it's real that can help. So, I appreciate everyone's support. Johnny CC MMA.
Damn right. I followed him. You guys should as well. For Johnny Cupcakes Campbell, this has been According to Woods, and we are out. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this very link, because without it,
I'll be doing
it. Dude, well, everyone have a great day. Johnny, thank you again, my man, and I can't wait to have you back on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.